Well, I have pretty much nothing to really talk about for today's introduction. I had some mildly dissatisfactory weekend and the beginning of the week as well, and trying to figure out something that would be worth talking about before I jump into Asterix seems to be beyond what my room temperature IQ is currently capable of. So I thought that I'll ease myself slightly into my next project, which I think I've mentioned before that it's going to be my most challenging so far since I'm not aware of a proper English translation, or even if it exists, I've never came into contact with it, and thus it will be solely based on my rather poor ability to translate from my own language to English, and that's going to be quite interesting. It's not exactly something extremely complicated since the target audience are mostly rather young people, and I read it when I was a small child, which was also the case with Asterix, which I started reading when I was in primary school, and I somehow stuck with it way more than with what my next project is. I haven't even really thought about this set of stories prior to doing these videos, but especially since I talked about different protagonists and what I think is important in a story for me, I realized that this particular story carries more weight and much higher importance than I would have ever granted it before these recordings. And hopefully, I'll be able to articulate it properly without, let's say, trying to sound like I'm lecturing or pressuring anything onto, well, anyone, because in the end I really just want to talk about things that make me happy, and I realized why, if I were to revisit this particular story again after all those years, I think I would be able to find quite a few things that would resonate with me quite a lot more than they used to when I was just reading it for, well, simple entertainment. That was all I really was looking for back then. But now I think it's dealing with some themes and offers some ideas and ideals that are very much worth talking about. So I'm looking forward to it, and since I don't really have much to say past what I've already said, it's time to go back to Asterix. Last time, Obelix definitely not forced a confession from a crooked merchant that was supposed to deliver stone for the construction of the palace, and thus the Gauls are forced to go on a journey to the quarry to secure a replacement delivery of said stones. Meanwhile, before they reach the quarry, they stop by one of the most famous tourist attractions Egypt has to offer, Sphinx. Obelix comments on a tiny Sphinx statues that they sell all over the place, that he could also sell tiny menhirs because, well, he is a menhir supplier. Panoramix gets his portrait made by one of the local artists, and meanwhile Obelix gets kind of lost for a moment, and when Asterix finds him next, it's when he's trying to, well, climb the Sphinx. And also here, the movie gives us the true reason why the Egyptian Sphinx is missing her nose. It was because of a Gaul tourist that tried to climb on her and take a walk on top of her head. unfortunately, when climbing over the nose, it was unable to support Obelix's weight and, well, broke off. While Asterix is not exactly impressed and happy with Obelix's remarkable achievement, Obelix gets slightly philosophical, and then, after Asterix asks him to find a solution, he does so by simply lifting the entire Sphinx, and with Asterix's help, who, after he takes a sip of the strengthening potion, throws the now broken off nose under the Sphinx, basically brushing things under the rug. There is a short intermission with Numeromis and Itineraris having a conversation where we get one of the few fourth wall breaking jokes when Itineraris' speech is being interrupted by lag, and Numeromis tries to help her get a better signal by positioning her head and body, and then she sighs, saying that this has been happening to her quite a lot lately. Then back to goals. They are reunited with Panoramix, whose portrait is now firmly etched into the stone from profile, which is again one of the running gags of this movie, and they are offered a tour through one of the pyramids by none other than Nexusis, the henchman of Amonbophis, who leads them deep into the pyramid and then leaves them behind a locked door to keep the old pharaohs company for the rest of eternity. This gets solved by two things: Obelix's immeasurable strength and the fact that Idefix was left at the entrance after a short attack of cabin fever. They are found by Idefix and he safely leads them out. As the good dog he is obviously promised a satisfactory reward, which is a huge pile of bones. They are then finally able to load up all the stones they need for the construction of the palace, but unfortunately, the long way back using the River Nile takes quite a lot of time, which is dissatisfactory for many reasons, both in terms of Numerovis' safety and the fact that they might miss a banquet with wild boars, which obviously is Obelix's problem, so he decides to solve it by jumping into the river and pulling the entire fleet of ships with a relaxing backstroke. We get a glimpse of a different group of the river's inhabitants, our well-known friends the pirates, who are finally able to sail the high seas again, and their captain is giving them a speech trying to rouse their morale after the last disaster they have encountered. Unfortunately, this time another natural disaster in the form of Obelix's uncompromising swimming is approaching them as if a torpedo is coming straight for their ship. He just mildly says, "Watch out," and that's all the warning they get before their ship is split in half. Even Panoramix, who knows exactly what happened during Obelix's childhood, is still sometimes amazed by the accomplishments this round goal is capable of showing. The construction is finally back on track, and with that, Numeromis' safety is seemingly set in stone. But Amombovis and his henchman Nexusis are on the prowl to cause more problems for our heroes, and Amombovis gets a devilish idea that he is about to realize. There is, although, one small problem Numeromis is facing, and that's with the gardens that obviously need quite a lot of time for the palm trees and other flowers to bloom and grow properly, which is the time that he not exactly has. So he asks for solution from Panoramix, and using some puppy eyes technique, he's able to secure some seeds that grow into large trees almost instantly. And with that, there are seemingly no obstacles standing in front of Numeromis finishing the palace on time, which is quite rare in those times. Next is Amompopis striking a deal with Caesar, making sure that Numermis is not going to finish the palace on time, and to accomplish that, he is not going to stop in front of anything, even going so far as attempting to poison Cleopatra herself. There is a scene in the animated version that's missing in this live action one where Amomphovis and Nexuses are baking this giant cake full of poison. It's a bit similar to one of my country's quite famous fairy tales for children, a doggy and a pussycat, how they were making a cake, where they would try and cook up a cake with all sorts of ingredients, just throwing them in randomly, which is very similar to what Amompopis and Nexusis were doing, but with way less insidious thoughts included. We get to see Cleopatra during one of her famous activities, which was bathing in milk, when the gift supposedly from Asterix, Obelix and Panoramix finally arrives, which is this giant mushroom looking green, obviously poisonous, obviously inedible cake, almost as big as a person, which she at first regards with delight, but things turn quite differently in almost no time. And well, that's when I'm going to finish this up for today, and I'm going to continue in the next video.